Hi, so in my last video I was looking at plans to possibly get a new electric car here in Denmark now that I've moved here from the UK to start a new job, and sadly my Hyundai IONIQ electric is gone. So one of those plans, plan E as it turns out, was to get another electric car, a non-Tesla electric car, and this week I couldn't help but notice the new Honda E prototype was shown off and driven around by Robert Llewellyn at the Fully Charged YouTube channel. So I wanted to look at that. Could that be the EV for me after my IONIQ being gone? And also I want to give an update on some of the other plans and just how it's gone settling into Denmark, but mainly this video is going to be about looking at the Honda E. You know, the kind of zero tailpipe style. I've been poring over kind of electronic press kit footage and other YouTube channels, not just Fully Charged, and some of the pictures that Honda have put out in its kind of official materials. Let's go over that in this video. Could this be the car for me, or does it have some kind of fundamental drawbacks? Bit of a spoiler there, fundamental drawbacks. So yeah, let's talk about it in this video. Electrical efficiency. Zero tailpipe. So onto the Honda E then, and my eyes might flit there and flit there as I'm talking about this because I'm looking at the kind of the press footage that Honda provides and the pictures that they provide. So I think if you look at this first sort of footage here, which is in Milan, I think, they've made a big thing of the kind of aesthetics of it, the interior design, the exterior design, and this is actually one thing that really appealed to me when Robert Llewellyn was driving it. It seemed very quiet and cosseted in this little electric car, this Honda E prototype he was in. The interior fit and finish looks beautiful. Lots of kind of additional digital systems and things, even an HDMI port that you can plug in things and watch videos, I guess, when you're charging or when the vehicle's stationary. Passengers can do things. All these screens across the front of it, lovely wood, lovely textiles, very nice design. There's also indications in the car that it has things like lane keeping assist, smart cruise control, some kind of autopilot-esque system, all these kind of electronic assists. But generally just a very kind of like, lounge-like feeling in the car. And I was thinking, oh, this is quite nice actually, because one of the things I talked about a lot with my IONIQ on this channel is how it's a really nice place to be, whether it's cold, whether you're in traffic. I did specific videos about that. Because it's so quiet, because it's so refined, because it's so easy to drive, it's very kind of relaxed, very hassle-free, very stress-free, very enjoyable driving environment. So why not add over something like the IONIQ, or even over something like most Teslas, add this kind of plush, lounge-like feeling to feel a bit sort of luxurious and cosseted in this environment that you spend so much time when you're actually sat in the car driving it. And that really seems to be where Honda is going for this. So I like that. I also like the fact that it does have regen paddles. Robert Llewellyn demonstrated this in his footage, in his test drive of it. He did say you could reduce the regen down to 0 to coast, to be more efficient, hopefully, and get more range out of the car, and that you could increase it to full. And it has some kind of e-pedal-like system. We can see in this footage from another YouTube channel, HondaPro Jason, that seems to have had some kind of exclusive access to the car. It has this kind of e-pedal-like feature from the Nissan Leaf and from things like the BMW i3, that if you let off, it will come to a complete stop from regen and then sort of software applied mechanical brakes, I guess. So you get that kind of one-pedal driving, par excellence in this. So yeah, generally the car's quite appealing. I like the look of it. It's very cute. It is strictly, though, a four-seater. If you look at the footage of the back seat, it's a four-seater. Now, I have, a wife and 2 children, so that would work just for me, but whenever we would have visitors, if we do go for this electric car, this EV as our option, we'd have a problem. And we do sometimes have family members visiting, mother-in-law and so on, and it's good to have that extra 5th seat. It's good to have that kind of flexibility. I'm not very keen on a strict four-seater car, so that's a kind of bit of a strike against it. Although for most of the time, if it was just me in there or just me and my direct family, yeah, really nice place to be, looks nice. The door handles are a bit kind of Model 3-esque, but not quite. They're these kind of flush aerodynamic ones. And I guess they pop out, either you click a button or you get close and it pops out or something. Not really clear. The rear door handles are this kind of bit like the Renault Zoe. They're integrated again for aerodynamics, I think. Internally, it's a kind of conventional pull handle on the door. Nothing unusual there. And sort of electric kind of mirror adjustment, interestingly. There's a button there for, even though the mirrors are cameras. So that's interesting. Maybe they're adjustable, even though they're a screen. I haven't seen that done yet. Robert Llewellyn, again, in the Fully Charged video, was talking a bit about the mirrors and that they were good, but didn't show how they were adjusted. They do have a reversing guide on them, which I think is a good thing for kind of parallel parking. Now looking at the front of the car, there's a camera on the front of the car, presumably for the lane keeping assist, probably the lane keeping assist, because underneath the glowing kind of Honda label, got to be careful not to say Hyundai now because it's an H, the Honda logo, it's a radar for the adaptive cruise control, this kind of cute rounded design of it. Little features then, like it's a bit like a BMW i3 in the front, in that there's no hump or anything, there's no transmission tunnel in between the front 2 seats. And they do have this kind of like pop-out extra cup holder there ahead of the gear selector unit, the center console for that. Yeah, the plugging in is a bit weird. It looks a bit open to the rain to me. One of the new Nissan Leaf, the 40 kilowatt hour and later Nissan Leafs, also have a more sort of, the front charging port is moved further up the front bonnet. This one looks really as if it could be a bit of a rain trap, but I'm sure they've thought about that. Coming into the car here, you can see kind of evidence that the car has a heated steering wheel and some sort of lane keeping assist. You can see the buttons for that. Yeah, so the interior generally has this very kind of i3-like feel. If you imagine an i3 with a few extra screens bolted on that bit of wood that they typically have on that sculpted dash on the i3, even the two-spoke steering wheel, actually very, very much heavy cues from the i3. One thing that did flag up a bit when Robert Llewellyn was talking about it is he was driving, just looking at the footage of him, he was saying that visibility is good. Now, it may well be, but if you look at these A-pillars on the car, they do look a bit thick, and I always really disliked the A-pillars on the Nissan Leaf we used to have because they were a real blind spot. They do seem quite upright here, which is going to link into the later problem in terms of efficiency. Yeah, so maybe they're not so bad when they're actually in use, but yeah, there's sort of air vents or something integrated into the A-pillars. Was that speakers for the sound system? I don't know. There's also a reversing camera, and from what I've seen from the two videos that I looked at, the rear view mirror will turn into a digital screen when you're reversing, or you can select it perhaps to get sort of a clearer view or a wider angle view. And there's no center armrest though, but maybe that will change in the production version. Maybe that's coming in. Seems odd to have a four-seater without a kind of, armrest with cup holders, bit weird. And I think the seat there, certainly there, and in the video from the HondaPro Jason, was a single fold. It didn't have a split fold rear seat. Maybe that's going to be in the final version, maybe not. Difficult to know. So to the more aerodynamic, more flush wing mirrors, they have the indicators are integrated into it. Hopefully they'll be visible. I kind of like this idea of trying to reduce drag and particularly interior noise from having the side mirrors, the wing mirrors there, because they definitely do make kind of whistling sounds and generally add to the wind noise that you don't want there in any car, but certainly not in a quieter electric car. And again, Robert Llewellyn kind of raved about them in this fully charged video, so maybe they're nice. They come as standard. It seems they're not an optional extra, but I'm a bit worried about the price of the car, this particular car as it is. Yeah, the one thing about the back of the car is that whole sort of what looks like glass or plastic covering across the back to give it that sort of smooth look seems to be a scratch magnet. Now this is from the prototype that HondaPro Jason looked at, so maybe in the production ones there's a different material, but I'd be a bit, any paint becomes covered in micro scratches often anyway, but I got a feeling though those a bit like the piano black interior portions that are very common in cars these days, that's going to become a scratch magnet. And here you can also see the button system is this kind of like, has the flow of a kind of gear lever, but the buttons are kind of, vertical lines. So hopefully your brain would just, muscle memory would remember where they are, and you wouldn't kind of go for the wrong one. So that's different to an IONIQ, different to a Kia e-Niro, different to the kind of puck of a Nissan Leaf, different to the actual physical gear shifter of a Renault Zoe, and so on. So why every single car seems to need to do a different button system, every different electric car seems to have a different way of doing it. I favour the one of the Tesla, having it on the stalk, because then at least you haven't got other things cluttering the kind of environment, and you could use this space for something else. I can see the benefit of having it somewhere conventional like that. But yeah, the doors, at least in the prototypes, and I'm not sure about the one that Robert Llewellyn drove because I don't think he put the window down, they're frameless, it seems, front and back. The charging is CCS, and nicely the port seems to have, from the footage that Robert Llewellyn showed on fully charged, these kind of covers for the individual sections of it, so that to keep the rain out. And I guess that is going to be essential because of the angle of it is quite sort of shallow, and rain is going to collect in there. So I presume they've designed in some sort of rain drain, a bit like the one I tested some time ago in my IONIQ, where I poured water into the charge port and it just came straight out over the wheel well. Yeah, I presume they've thought of that. One thing that if you zoom in on the press kit kind of photos about the car, and they've got some sort of mock-up CCS charger. I presume it's a mock-up. I've never seen units like this in the real world anywhere in anyone's EV videos in any country. If you zoom in, they've got the graphics wrong. It says kilowatt hours for both energy and power. So that's wrong, and Bjorn Nieland would be quite annoyed about that because it should be kilowatts for the power that the charger's delivering and kilowatt hours for the energy, the stored energy that's been delivered to the car. So now we get to the two main problems that I think with the car. So the design and everything is really interesting, really nice to see something a bit different, nice, small, maneuverable car. I like the fact that it's rear-wheel drive, actually. The turning circle was demonstrated a lot in the electronic press kit footage, going around cones and things, and Robert Llewellyn seemed to really make a big thing of that, smaller than a London taxi, very nimble, very agile. Very much in favour of that, and it's a real appeal to me of the Tesla Model 3, that it's rear-wheel drive. I think it's the BMW i3 rear-wheel drive as well. I think that helps with steering feel and so on. But the main problem here is not the kind of design of the car, not the size of the car, well, sort of the design of the car. It seems to be either poor aerodynamic efficiency or poor drivetrain efficiency. So the Honda E is specified as having a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery. Now, that's bigger than my old first gen IONIQ electric, which had 28 kilowatt hour usable. So presuming that is a usable, it's a bigger amount available. But the range then is stated as pretty much the same as my first gen IONIQ electric, 124 miles WLTP. That might actually be less because I think the IONIQ is 124 miles EPA. I'm not sure. I get a bit confused about this. But anyway, it's pretty disappointing range for a 35.5 kilowatt hour battery. The second gen IONIQ electric that's going to have a 38.3 kilowatt hour battery, usable capacity, I think, is, 160, 170, 180 miles you would expect out of that. It's already very low because that's kind of ideal conditions probably for WLTP. And then you think about adding cooling or adding heating in the cabin and wet roads and cold conditions and having a cold battery. And you're not going to get much range out of this car at all, actually. And if you do look at the footage in the fully charged video, and I haven't seen it in any other videos because I haven't shown the percentage and range screens that you need to see to work this out. At 48% indicated state of charge, the range is indicated as 51 kilometers remaining. So that's about 30 miles. So if you kind of just a bit more than double that, you're looking at about sort of 62 miles range at 100% in this car, or about 106 kilometers. So what's going on there? So I realize this is a demo car. It's probably a late prototype car as well, and a demo car that's been driven on a circuit in seemingly 25 degrees centigrade temperature, which isn't too bad, but you could hear in the video with Robert Llewellyn that the air conditioning was on, and he talked about putting it on, and you can see on the screen that it's on auto at 21 degrees, set to his face, fairly high fan level. But I mean, this is terrible range for a car like this. I mean, that's below a first generation 24 kilowatt hour or to about 20 kilowatt hour usable Nissan Leaf. You're looking at about 60 to 80 miles of range in kind of real world driving when you've got any kind of heating or cooling on. And again, this is a prototype. It might not be the final one. Any kind of testing by journalists like this, where it's doing little short runs where people are accelerating, getting in and out, the air conditioning, that's pretty terrible conditions. And I've pointed that out actually previously when I used similar electronic press kit footage of a Kona, that some of the efficiencies there were like 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour for very short distances, or it had been driven, 3 kilometers in like 10 hours or something. It's not indicative of real world driving, but still, I don't think it's kind of going to be a very efficient car, and I think it's going to be way below what people are expecting. So if you kind of add up the 124 miles that they say on the WLTP rating, and think about it being the 35.5 kilowatt hour battery, you get about 3.5 miles per kilowatt hour, or 5 to 6 kilometers per kilowatt hour. Now, that's not terrible, but it's not great for a small, light car with a fairly big battery. That's disappointing. And if you take the numbers that they show in the fully charged video, where it's got 51 kilometers remaining at 48%, you're getting at about sort of 66 miles maximum range, and about 1.86 or 1.9, let's be generous, 1.9 miles per kilowatt hour efficiency, or about 3 kilometers per kilowatt hour efficiency. And I realize it's not ideal. 1.9 in not ideal conditions might end up being better. So, like I said, you can see low numbers when people have been doing 0 to 60s in test drive cars. Generally, that comes up quite a lot. People have noted that when they've gone to test them at dealers, or you see videos online of it. So maybe it's not going to be as bad as all that, but I've got a feeling that, as soon as people start doing real world tests with these cars, the range is going to be terrible. So all that being said, the kind of nice place to be, nice design, nice environment, and then possible concerns about range, and who knows anything about longevity and other battery characteristics, cooling, degradation over time of an untested, unknown Honda battery. Would it be the car for me? It's really difficult to say. I mean, especially because the pricing is going to be about 35,000 euros. Nobody's said anything yet. There was a really wide band of price talked about in Robert Llewellyn's video. I think if people start seeing, ridiculously low ranges of like 60 miles or something on 100% in these cars, maybe people will still buy them. Yeah, going to this seems a real step backwards. And I love the design. I love the ethos of making it a pleasant place to be, because it's a quiet environment. So why not make it a quiet and pleasant environment? And why not really up the design features and make it something a bit distinctive? But if that comes at the cost of really high upfront purchase cost of the car, really poor efficiency, unknown battery characteristics and only 4 seats. With there's no split fold seat and so on, so really kind of limited flexibility. Yeah, I don't know. I think it'd be a tough sell for me. I'd still love to test drive one and see how it is really in real world testing. But I think especially if they're priced high, this could be a really bizarre step for Honda. That's not saying people won't buy them because they might be really limited in production. But yeah, so probably not for me right now. So this kind of plan E being a Honda, the plan to get a non-Tesla EV here in Denmark. Is that likely to be a Honda E? I don't think so. So still, I applaud Honda for doing it, but I think either they should have sorted out their efficiency or put a bigger battery in it, because I think that's really going to come back to bite them, especially if they do sort of premium pricing for it, if they go for that kind of segment, because as soon as people start driving them, 60 miles and so on showing up, not going to be good. Not going to be good for Honda, not going to be good for sort of EV publicity generally with it. So now we come to a bit of an update part of the video. So if you're only interested in the Honda E, I'll fully understand if you leave. But yeah, so I've been carrying on about, settling here in Aarhus in Denmark, thinking about whether I should go, just on public transport, get a bike, these kind of things, the plans I outlined in the previous video. I'm still stunned by the amount of bike usage generally here in Denmark. Thanks very much for all the really helpful comments, actually, just superb to help my thinking, being in somewhere new and so many things to think about generally. Some really useful tips and specific suggestions there. Still amazed by the bikes, but there has been a period of really, really high wind, and we've had some quite severe rain, and it got colder. So that was a good kind of temper to my plan of just like, let's completely forget about cars, let alone electric cars, and just walk everywhere or bicycle everywhere, and public transport. And I've also, since the last video, realized that I'll probably be commuting with my 2 children, because at least initially their kindergarten and school will be close to where I work. So they'll probably come with me. So whatever mode of transport I have has to work for them too. So that doesn't necessarily, eliminate any of the existing plan options that I was thinking about in the last video. Public transport, bikes, car share, short-term car hire, Tesla, not Tesla, these kind of things. But it's certainly a factor I need to think into the process of can they come with me, basically. So yeah, it's a factor. I've also really found a kind of favorite food place, a place called Faur. And I'm still really enjoying the kind of general range of architecture here and the interesting new places I've been discovering. And bear in mind, I am settling here. I'm trying to kind of be respectful of everything and recognizing that anything that's different is just different for me, because I am legally, as you can see from these snapshots here from my earlier registration process, I'm an alien here, as formally called an alien, and culturally I'm from somewhere else, so I'm still wandering around and, looking the wrong ways when I'm crossing streets and trying not to get run over and trying to be alert to things and the small differences that there are. The other thing I like about the cycling here is how well the infrastructure is even labeled. If you look at these kind of, these lanes within the cycle lanes, just superb, They're really organized, really well laid out. There has been, I think, just like the UK, or maybe even more extreme than the UK, these real swings of weather here, which, are important for thinking about transport options, between lovely, lovely, balmy sunshine and warm weather and, suddenly got much colder and grey. I have seen some of the Eon charging posts that people have mentioned in the comments of the last video. These seem to be just kind of, 2-pin plug, very slow charging, but at least they're there. Yeah, more lovely weather downtown and wandering and so on. I would have loved to have gone and tried to rent a place by the beach or by the water. It's always been a dream of mine to live by water. I think lots of people agree with that. Statistically, most properties near water are more expensive than those away from water. But it's really windy down by the docks even in summer, so perhaps that's not such a good idea, because if it's windy in summer, it's not going to be that pleasant in winter, although, beautiful, beautiful location. Seems to be a fairly environmentally forward-thinking country, Denmark, but yet still I'm getting deluged with junk mail. I've emptied out my temporary mail slot quite a few times already of all these flyers, and even though all of the mailboxes here, I think all of the ones I've seen in town have got these stickers saying, no, we don't want your junk mail, there's still people come around on bikes, ironically, with big trailers and just dump huge amounts of junk mail. This is a tiny portion of the stuff I've had to put in the recycling so far. I found this really cool place downtown that I think is owned by the Aarhus municipality, and I love this. This is one of the reasons why I wanted to move out of the UK. There were lots of reasons that maybe I can cover in a future video, but one of the reasons was to see new things, be in new places, experience the possibility that there were new ways of doing things or different ways of doing things to some of the kind of entrenched problems and inertia and things in the UK, not just around electric cars. And finding places like this was really cool. I just enjoyed wandering around and chatting to the person working there about how it had come about, what it was, how it fit into the wider community and so on. And again, remember, I'm coming in fresh, so I'm very naive about whether these things do meet their stated aims and so on. I'm not making a judgment on that. It's just cool to discover it. Yeah, I found one street, I guess you could call kind of edgy, with some graffiti on it. I really enjoyed wandering through that. This was on one of the days where it was a bit sunny as well. I think that was possibly last weekend. And then I was really fortunate. We had this really cool tour of the Royal Library, and this included going up this kind of quite discreet and understated looking building that actually has sort of 17 or 18 floors and is on top of the hill above the University Park here in Aarhus. So it has an amazing view out. So yeah, we went up. It was quite windy, so I didn't record, I wouldn't put the sound in, but amazing view of the whole kind of area and the bay and the sea and the lovely architecture of the University Park, but also the rest of Aarhus and some of the hospitals and the hospitals that are being converted into new buildings and other things. And then we also saw in the basement it's all open to the public, as I understand, and it's had this big transformation project, and it's got massage chairs and mindfulness spaces and ping pong and punch bags and PlayStations and chill out zones and all sorts of mixed kind of work and rest, whole sort of philosophy built into the design that I just thought was incredible. Oh, and one other sort of adaptation thing here does come into my kind of monthly budgeting, which will link back into whether I can actually afford to get an EV here. I'm just still trying to kind of recalibrate to food prices. I'll probably give up sugary breakfast cereals because they're not that cheap in the UK, but they're really expensive here. And this was on sale, but otherwise this would have been about £6, about sort of €5 or more for this box that, yeah, I wouldn't pay that much for it in the UK. I've been generally eating very well here. I've been eating a lot of fruit, a lot of kind of high fiber bread and things that the Danes seem to like, and I think is great and delicious as well. And I've been walking a lot, as I said in the last video, at least kind of 5 to 10 kilometers a day I've been averaging so far. So I've been really enjoying that. I probably look a bit stressed because I've had so many things to do, and there remain a lot of things to do. But yeah, it's really good. I'm really looking forward to kind of, looking into the transport options in a broader way, because in a way I've been able to let go a lot of the things that I would just take for granted in the UK about whether I should walk or cycle or have an electric car or whatever. And it's nice revisiting all those things. It makes me kind of question my own assumptions and really pick apart what is essential and what is not essential in the way that I want to live. And that will be, I guess, featuring little bit by little bit in coming videos week by week. So hopefully you enjoyed that bit about the Honda E. I don't think it's going to be right for me, but I'd really like to test drive one. And I hope you liked the little update about how things are going here with sort of Duncan in Denmark. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Again, the IONIQ will come in and out of the titles of the videos. I compare it perhaps to things that I'm driving or testing here. But for now, yeah, thanks for watching, and bye for now.